Welcome to our coin collecting channel, where ordinary dollars can reveal extraordinary stories and incredible value. Today, we're exploring some of the most rare and valuable United States presidential gold dollar coins. These coins combine American history, beautiful designs, fascinating minting details, and the possibility of rare errors that can make certain examples highly desirable to collectors. So stay with us, because one overlooked presidential dollar could be far more valuable than it appears. First up, we're talking about one of the most rare and valuable. The 2007 George Washington Presidential Dollar is one of the most fascinating and historically significant coins in the United States Presidential Dollar series, and it holds a special place among collectors because it honors George Washington, the first President of the United States. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint with the P Mint mark, this dollar represents the beginning of a major modern coin program that transformed American pocket change into a rolling gallery of presidential history. Although millions were produced, exceptional examples, unusual errors, and coins preserved in outstanding condition can attract considerably more attention than ordinary circulated pieces. The combination of Washington's legacy, the coin's distinctive golden appearance, edge lettering, and its position as the first issue in the series makes it a prized treasure for collectors. For enthusiasts searching through old collections, rolls, estate accumulations, and inherited coin jars, discovering an especially sharp 2007 P example can be an exciting, tangible connection to the past. The story of this coin begins in 2007, when the United States Mint launched the Presidential Dollar program to honor deceased presidents in chronological order. George Washington was chosen for the inaugural issue, making this coin historically important beyond its $1 denomination. The Philadelphia Mint produced the Washington dollars carrying the P Mint mark, while the series was designed to place a different president in the spotlight approximately 4 times each year. Washington's portrait was especially appropriate for the opening issue because of his central role in the founding of the nation and his service as the first president from 1789 to 1797. The coin, therefore, became more than everyday money. It was part of a national effort to bring presidential history into the hands of millions of Americans. Its 2007 release also marked a new chapter in modern United States coinage, giving collectors an entirely new series to follow from the very first issue. The visual design of the 2007 P. George Washington Presidential Dollar is another reason it remains so captivating. The obverse features a detailed portrait of George Washington facing right, surrounded by the inscriptions George Washington, 1 St. President, 1789-1797. The reverse displays the Statue of Liberty, reinforcing the patriotic identity of the series, while the denomination appears on the edge rather than in the traditional center of the coin. The coin is composed of a copper core surrounded by manganese brass outer layers, giving it its recognizable golden color. It measures approximately 26.5 millimeters across, weighs about 8.1 grams, and has a smooth edge carrying lettering. That edge lettering is particularly important because it contains the date, mint mark, and mottos, making the coin visually different from many earlier United States dollar coins. In brilliant uncirculated condition, the surfaces can display attractive luster and crisp details that make Washington's portrait especially impressive. Rarity is where the real excitement begins, because an ordinary 2007 P Washington dollar is not automatically an ultra-rare fortune coin simply because it is old or carries the P Mint mark. The Philadelphia issue had a substantial production, meaning most normal examples remain relatively accessible. What creates serious collector interest is a combination of condition, scarcity, and unusual minting characteristics. Coins with exceptionally strong strikes, pristine surfaces, brilliant original luster, or professionally certified high grades are far more desirable than heavily circulated pieces. In addition, genuine mint errors involving the edge lettering, missing or incomplete lettering, doubled lettering, misplaced inscriptions, or other unusual production characteristics can be dramatically scarcer than normal examples. The challenge is finding an authentic piece with a combination of rarity and preservation, which is why collectors carefully examine the edge as well as the portrait and reverse. When it comes to value, the 2007 George Washington Presidential Dollar has a very wide market range, depending on exactly what is being offered. Ordinary circulated examples generally trade close to their face value, while attractive uncirculated pieces can bring premiums based on grade and eye appeal. Certified coins reaching exceptional grades can command substantially higher prices, and genuinely rare, authenticated mint errors can move into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. For the most exceptional and unusual examples, a price in the $900 to $7,600 range can be possible when rarity, condition, certification, and collector demand all align, but such figures should be associated with truly scarce varieties or major errors rather than an ordinary 2007 dollar. Historical importance also strengthens the coin's appeal, because this was the first presidential dollar honoring the first president. For collectors pursuing a valuable 2007 Washington dollar, condition should be one of the first priorities. Coins with bright original surfaces, minimal contact marks, sharp lettering, strong portrait details, and attractive luster deserve careful attention. The edge should also be inspected closely for unusual lettering, missing elements, doubled impressions, or other characteristics that appear genuinely different from normal examples. Because valuable errors are frequently misunderstood or exaggerated in online listings, authentication becomes extremely important when a coin appears unusual. Professional grading and certification can provide greater confidence, particularly for pieces being considered for serious investment or high-value transactions. The 2007 George Washington Presidential Dollar stands as a remarkable blend of American history, modern minting technology, artistry, and collecting excitement. It commemorates the first president of the United States while simultaneously introducing the Presidential Dollar series to a new generation of collectors. Its ordinary examples may be affordable, but exceptional high-grade specimens and authentic rare errors can transform this familiar golden dollar into a much more desirable numismatic treasure. The Philadelphia Mint mark, Washington portrait, Statue of Liberty reverse, distinctive edge lettering, and first-place position in the Presidential Dollar series give this coin an enduring identity. For numismatists, the greatest attraction is the possibility that an overlooked coin may contain a characteristic worth investigating. That combination of historical importance, visual appeal, scarcity, and discovery potential ensures that the 2007 George Washington Presidential Dollar remains a fascinating and prized collectible for collectors around the world. And secondly, we are turning our attention to the 2007 John Adams Presidential Dollar with the Denver D Mint mark, honoring the second President of the United States. This coin may look familiar at first glance, but its place in the very first year of the Presidential Dollar program gives it special historical importance. For collectors, the real excitement comes from examining its condition, edge lettering, minting characteristics, and unusual examples that can command premiums far beyond face value. So stay with us as we uncover the history, rarity, and potential value of this fascinating presidential dollar, and discover why certain examples continue to attract serious attention from numismatists. The 2007 John Adams Presidential Dollar is a particularly interesting collectible because it belongs to the inaugural year of a series created to place America's presidents directly into the nation's circulating coinage. John Adams was the second president of the United States, serving from 1797 to 1801, and his appearance immediately after George Washington follows the historical order established by the program. The Denver D issue is therefore more than simply another modern dollar. It represents an early chapter in one of the most recognizable modern United States dollar series. Millions of ordinary examples were produced, so a normal circulated coin is not automatically rare. However, coins preserved with exceptional surfaces, strong details, original luster, and unusual authenticated minting characteristics can become much more desirable. That combination of presidential history and the possibility of discovering an unusual example is what keeps collectors searching through old collections, rolls, bags, and inherited accumulations. The historical story behind the coin reaches back to the creation of the Presidential Dollar program in the early 21st century. Beginning in 2007, the United States Mint introduced a sequence of dollar coins honoring deceased presidents in chronological order, with George Washington opening the program and John Adams following as the second release. The Denver Mint produced the coins carrying the distinctive D-Mint mark, giving collectors an immediate way to identify the source of manufacture. This was an important period in modern American coinage because the Mint was attempting to increase public awareness and use of dollar coins while simultaneously creating a collecting program with a strong historical theme. John Adams was an especially meaningful figure for the second issue because his presidency followed the nation's first president and represented another important stage in the development of the early United States government. Holding a 2007 D. Adams dollar, therefore, provides a tangible connection to the formative years of the American Republic, while also representing the beginning of a major modern collecting series. The design of the 2007 D. John Adams Presidential Dollar gives the coin an unmistakable identity. On the obverse is a detailed portrait of John Adams facing right, surrounded by inscriptions identifying his name, his status as the second president, and his years in office, 1797–1801. The reverse features the Statue of Liberty, a powerful patriotic symbol that gives the entire Presidential Dollar series a consistent visual character. One of the most distinctive features is the edge lettering, where the date, mint mark, and national mottos were placed rather than being positioned on the main faces of the coin. The dollar measures approximately 26.5 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 8.1 grams, with a copper core and manganese brass outer layers that produce its familiar golden appearance. When an example is preserved in brilliant uncirculated condition, the original luster can make the portrait, inscriptions, and reverse design look remarkably sharp, while a clean and well-preserved edge can add significantly to its visual appeal. The question of rarity requires careful attention because the 2007 D. John Adams dollar was not produced in extremely small quantities. Large numbers entered circulation, meaning worn examples can still be found without extraordinary difficulty. What becomes much harder to locate is a coin that combines exceptional preservation with a strong strike and attractive surfaces. Contact marks, scratches, discoloration, and dull surfaces can quickly reduce the appeal of modern dollar coins, especially when compared with pristine pieces saved soon after release. The edge is also an important area to inspect because unusual edge lettering can occur during the minting process. Genuine errors involving missing, incomplete, doubled, or otherwise abnormal edge lettering can be considerably scarcer than ordinary coins and may attract strong collector interest after proper authentication. This is why the difference between a common 2007 D. Adams dollar and a truly desirable example can come down to details that are easy to overlook. Collector demand for this coin comes from several directions at once. Presidential dollar enthusiasts want the John Adams issue to complete the chronological series, while collectors interested in American history are naturally attracted to a coin honoring one of the nation's earliest presidents. Modern-era collectors have another reason to examine these dollars because the unusual placement of information on the edge created opportunities for distinctive minting mistakes and varieties. Unlike an ordinary modern dollar that may be collected mainly for its denomination, the 2007 D. Adams dollar has a clear historical narrative attached to it. It is part of the first year of the program, carries the Denver D. Mint mark, and commemorates the second president of the United States. This combination gives it a broad appeal, from someone beginning a presidential dollar collection to an experienced numismatist searching for high-grade or unusual examples. When it comes to value, the 2007 D. John Adams Presidential Dollar should be judged by its exact condition and characteristics rather than by the date alone. A normal circulated example will generally remain close to its $1 face value, while attractive uncirculated pieces can bring modest premiums depending on grade and demand. Professionally certified coins in exceptionally high grades may command considerably more, particularly when they display strong luster and minimal marks. The biggest opportunity for substantial value comes from genuine, rare, and authenticated mint eras. Depending on the seriousness of the era, certification, condition, and market demand, exceptional examples can potentially reach hundreds or even thousands of dollars, while extraordinary pieces may sell for several $1,000s. A figure such as $1,000 to $8,000 should be reserved for genuinely scarce and desirable specimens rather than ordinary 2007D coins. Auction performance, professional grading, eye appeal, rarity, and collector competition all influence the final price, making accurate identification essential before assigning a high value. For collectors searching for a valuable 2007D John Adams dollar, the first priority should be preservation. Look for coins with bright original surfaces, strong details, minimal contact marks, and attractive natural luster. Examine the edge carefully rather than focusing only on the portrait, because important characteristics can be located there. Any suspected unusual lettering or mint error should be compared with reliable numismatic references, and when the potential value is significant, submitted to a respected professional grading service for authentication. Avoid cleaning the coin, polishing the surfaces, or repeatedly touching it with bare fingers, because these actions can permanently damage the original finish and reduce collector appeal. Coins stored in protective holders and kept away from moisture, chemicals, and unnecessary handling have a much better chance of retaining their condition. Serious collectors should also compare recent sales, study certified examples, and purchase expensive pieces through reputable dealers or established auctions. In the end, the 2007D John Adams Presidential Dollar is an intriguing combination of presidential history, modern United States coinage, and numismatic discovery. It honors the second President of the United States while representing the second chapter of a presidential dollar program that began in 2007 with George Washington. Its golden appearance, John Adams portrait, Statue of Liberty reverse, Denver D mint mark, and distinctive edge lettering make it instantly recognizable, but its greatest collecting potential comes from exceptional condition and genuine unusual minting characteristics. Most ordinary examples are not worth a fortune, yet that does not make the search any less exciting. For collectors, the real treasure is finding a coin that rises above the ordinary through preservation, rarity, or an authenticated era. That possibility keeps the 2007D John Adams dollar relevant and captivating, offering both new and experienced numismatists a fascinating tangible connection to America's early presidential history. And thirdly, the most valuable and expensive United States ultra-rare coin is not always the coin that looks brilliant, flawless, and freshly minted. The 2011 Ulysses S. Presidential Dollar with the Denver D mint mark, United States of America, is exactly the kind of coin that deserves a second look. Covered in scratches, dark discoloration, grime, and the evidence of years of handling, an ordinary example may appear destined for nothing more than face value. Yet the story changes completely if that battered-looking surface conceals an authentic minting anomaly, unusual edge lettering, or another scarce characteristic. This is where the excitement begins, because the difference between a damaged coin and a rare coin can sometimes be hidden beneath the very details that make it look unattractive. The 2011 D. Grant dollar honors the 18th President of the United States, and certain unusual examples have the potential to command dramatically higher premiums when rarity and collector competition come together. To understand why this coin matters, the story has to return to 2011, a period when the United States was still recovering from the financial crisis and recession of the previous years. The economy was gradually strengthening, but unemployment remained elevated, housing markets were still recovering, and concerns about government spending and inflation were prominent in the national conversation. At the same time, the United States Mint continued producing presidential dollars as part of an ambitious program designed to honor the nation's presidents in chronological order. The Ulysses S. Grant issue was especially significant because Grant was the 18th president and a major figure in American history, having commanded Union forces during the Civil War before serving as president from 1869 to 1877. The United States Mint officially released the Grant Presidential Dollar to the public on May 19, 2011, while Denver's first day of mintage occurred on March 2 of that year. The Denver D-Mint mark identifies this particular coin as a product of the Denver Mint, but the production story is more complicated than simply looking at the letter D. PCGS records a mintage figure of 1,972,863 for the 2011 D. Ulysses S. Grant Presidential Dollar varieties it catalogs, a relatively limited production figure compared with many earlier presidential dollar issues. The coin was also produced in 2 edge lettering positions, creating another layer of interest for specialists. Its composition consists of a copper core surrounded by a manganese brass outer layer, giving it the familiar golden appearance, while the coin measures approximately 26.5 millimeters and weighs about 8.1 grams. This demonstrates an important principle in modern coin collecting. Mintage alone does not determine value. A coin can have nearly 2 million examples struck and still have a much smaller population in extraordinary grades or with a particular authenticated error. In fact, PCGS currently records only a limited number of certified examples at the highest grades, showing how quickly the population becomes smaller as preservation quality rises. Now look closely at the coin in its old, scratched, and very dirty condition. The once bright golden surface may now appear dull brown, gray, or almost black in places, with grime accumulated around the lettering and protected areas of the design. Scratches may cross the portrait of Grant, contact marks can interrupt the fields, and discoloration can make the coin appear much older than its 2011 date. Environmental exposure can create spots, stains, and surface changes that completely transform the original appearance. The obverse carries Ulysses S. Grant's portrait, identifying him as the 18th president and giving his presidential years, 1869, 1877, while the reverse features the Statue of Liberty. The edge carries important inscriptions including the date, mint mark, and EPLUOBUSUNUM, making the edge particularly important when examining a suspicious or unusual specimen. A coin this dirty should not automatically be dismissed, because its damaged appearance tells a story of circulation, storage, handling, and survival, and sometimes that story is exactly what makes an unusual specimen worth investigating. There is a fascinating psychology behind collectors who pursue coins that look completely wrong. Perfect coins are beautiful, but damaged coins can be mysterious. A heavily scratched Grant dollar raises questions immediately. Where has it been? How long did it circulate? Why did it survive when so many others disappeared into collections, vending machines, drawers, and bank deposits? And most importantly, is the unusual appearance simply damage, or is there something underneath it that originated at the mint? That distinction can create enormous excitement. A genuinely scarce mint error remains a mint error even if the coin later became scratched and dirty, although post-mint damage can greatly affect its market value. For collectors, this creates a fascinating separation between condition rarity and error rarity. A battered coin with a documented and authenticated unusual feature can sometimes be more interesting than a flawless ordinary example because it combines historical survival with an identifiable story. The edge of the 2011 D. Grant dollar deserves especially careful attention because documented unusual edge lettering errors exist for this issue. PCGS catalogs examples involving weak edge lettering, partial edge lettering, doubled edge lettering, overlapping lettering, and inverted edge lettering. These are not merely scratches created after the coin left the mint. They involve characteristics associated with the manufacturing process and therefore can be far more important to collectors. A damaged coin could also show die deterioration, striking weakness, struck-through effects, or planchet-related abnormalities, but every unusual mark must be separated from ordinary post-mint damage. A scratch running across Grant's face is normally just a scratch. A strange interruption in the edge lettering that corresponds to a recognized minting error is an entirely different matter. This is why the most exciting discoveries often begin with careful examination rather than an assumption about value. The market becomes even more interesting when a coin attracts attention beyond traditional collectors. Specialty presidential dollar collectors, era enthusiasts, registry set participants, and online coin communities can all compete for unusual pieces. A coin with a dramatic appearance can also gain attention when its unusual characteristic is clearly documented and professionally authenticated. Social media can amplify that interest, especially when photographs reveal an extraordinary edge error or a seemingly impossible minting characteristic. But genuine rarity remains the foundation of serious value. A dirty or scratched coin does not become valuable simply because it looks dramatic, and viral attention alone cannot transform ordinary damage into a rare mint error. The strongest prices occur when rarity, authenticity, condition, provenance, and collector competition converge. That is where an overlooked 2011 D Grant dollar can move from an ordinary $1 object into a serious numismatic conversation. The extreme value scenario is where the imagination of collectors naturally goes furthest. A normal circulated 2011 D Grant dollar is not a six-figure coin, and even documented high-grade examples remain far below that level. PCGS records an auction result of $300 for a certified MS-68 2011 D Grant dollar, demonstrating how high-grade examples can command premiums while remaining within a realistic modern coin market. However, imagine an entirely different scenario. An exceptionally rare, previously unknown major mint error is discovered, professionally authenticated, exceptionally documented, and presented with an extraordinary history of ownership. If multiple elite collectors believed that specimen was uniquely important and competed aggressively in a specialty auction, an extraordinary price could theoretically result. A six-figure outcome would represent an exceptional outlier requiring extraordinary rarity and competition, not the normal market value of this coin. The distinction is crucial because the real treasure lies in identifying what the coin actually is before imagining what it could be worth. Another fascinating element of the 2011 D Ulysses S Grant Presidential Dollar is the way its edge can completely change the identity of an otherwise ordinary-looking coin. When the surfaces are covered with dirt and scratches, the portrait may attract most of the attention, but experienced collectors know that the edge deserves just as much inspection. The date, Denver D mint mark, and inscriptions were placed around the edge during the production process, creating opportunities for unusual strikes and lettering abnormalities. On a heavily circulated example, grime can hide portions of those inscriptions and make the lettering appear weak or incomplete, while actual mint-made abnormalities can sometimes display patterns that are fundamentally different from simple wear. This makes the edge one of the most intriguing areas to examine on a 2011 D Grant dollar. A coin that appears unattractive from the front could potentially reveal a remarkable manufacturing characteristic when rotated carefully under good lighting, turning an overlooked dollar into a fascinating piece of modern United States numismatic history. There is also something uniquely compelling about finding a presidential dollar that has survived in rough condition while still preserving evidence of its original identity. Every scratch, stain, darkened area, and worn section represents part of the coin's journey after it left the Denver Mint. Most collectors naturally search for brilliant uncirculated pieces, but a heavily worn example can create a different kind of fascination because it demonstrates how far the coin traveled through everyday American commerce. When that ordinary survivor is compared with a pristine certified specimen, the contrast becomes a visual record of time, circulation, and preservation. And if the worn coin contains an authenticated mint error or unusual edge characteristic, its damaged appearance becomes part of an even more remarkable story. That is the enduring attraction of the 2011 D Ulysses S Grant Presidential Dollar. Its value is not determined by appearance alone, but by the combination of history, authenticity, rarity, and the hidden details waiting to be discovered. The most important lesson from the 2011 Ulysses S Presidential Dollar is that coin collecting is not simply a search for shiny surfaces. It is a search for evidence, history, manufacturing secrets, and survival. The scratched and dirty coin sitting unnoticed in an old collection may be worth only $1, but its edge, date, mint mark, surfaces, and unusual characteristics can reveal an entirely different story. Examine the D mint mark, study the edge lettering carefully, compare unusual features with authenticated examples, and never confuse ordinary damage with a genuine mint-made error. Professional authentication becomes especially important when a suspected error appears valuable. The coin should also be preserved without cleaning or polishing, because aggressive cleaning can permanently destroy surfaces and reduce its numismatic appeal. In the end, the 2011 D dollar remains a fascinating historic survivor. A coin honoring a Civil War general and 18th president, created during a changing period in modern America, and capable of reminding every collector that the most intriguing discoveries are sometimes hidden inside objects that initially look completely worthless. And fourthly, we are examining the 2007 James Madison Presidential Dollar, the coin honoring the fourth president of the United States, and a piece that becomes especially intriguing when it is found scratched, toned, darkened, or heavily circulated. At first glance, such a coin may appear to be worth nothing more than its $1 denomination, but the real question is not how beautiful it looks today. It is what happened to it when it was created at the United States Mint. The 2007 D issue has a substantial production history, yet authenticated edge lettering errors and exceptional high-grade survivors have created a completely different level of collector interest. In the documented market, ordinary examples generally remain modestly priced, while unusual pieces can bring substantially higher premiums. One of the most important recorded results for the broader 2007 James Madison issue is a $978 auction result for a certified MS-65 missing edge lettering example, showing how dramatically a genuine mint error can separate an unusual coin from a normal $1 piece. The historical background makes this coin even more fascinating. The year 2007 marked the beginning of the Presidential Dollar Program, created under the Presidential $1 Coin Act of 2005 to honor presidents in the order they served. George Washington opened the program in February, followed by John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and finally James Madison. The Madison dollar entered circulation on November 15, 2007, completing the first 4 presidential dollar designs of the inaugural year. The United States at that time was experiencing a very different economic environment from today, with the housing and credit markets beginning to show serious weakness before the financial crisis fully unfolded in 2008. Against that backdrop, the Mint was introducing a completely new dollar series intended to make circulating coinage more visually distinctive and historically educational. The program was ambitious, and the Madison issue became the 4th chapter in that opening year, connecting modern American coinage directly with one of the principal architects of the early republic. James Madison himself gives this coin a powerful historical identity. Often associated with the Constitution and the formation of the American government, Madison served as the 4th president from 1809 through 1817. The United States Mint describes him as a student of history and law who played a major role in shaping the new republic and was instrumental in framing the nation's government. The coin's obverse was designed by Joel Iskowitz through the Artistic Infusion program and sculpted by United States Mint medallic artist Don Everhart, while Everhart also designed and sculpted the Statue of Liberty reverse used throughout the Presidential Dollar series. This artistic partnership gave the coin a bold, modern appearance while preserving a direct connection to Madison's historical image. Unlike an old silver coin whose value may depend heavily on precious metal content, the Presidential Dollar is a copper-based manganese brass coin, meaning its collector value comes primarily from rarity, condition, eras, and historical demand rather than silver content. The design itself is instantly recognizable. On the obverse, James Madison's portrait faces right, surrounded by the inscriptions James Madison and 4th President 1809-1817. The reverse presents a dramatic rendition of the Statue of Liberty, along with United States of America and the denomination. But the most unusual feature is found around the edge, where the year 2007, EPLUBUSUNUM, in God WE Trust, and the mint mark were placed. The coin measures about 26.5 millimeters in diameter and weighs approximately 8.1 grams, with a copper-based composition that produces its familiar golden color. This edge lettering system was one of the defining characteristics of the new presidential dollar program, and it also became the source of some of the most interesting errors associated with these coins. When the coin is scratched and toned, the original golden appearance may disappear beneath dark coloration and surface marks, but those cosmetic changes do not erase the importance of examining the edge. The official production figure is another reason this coin requires careful interpretation. PCGS catalogs approximately 87,780,000 examples for the 2007 James Madison dollar, a large enough production that the ordinary coin should not be considered inherently rare. Yet mintage is only the beginning of the rarity story. Millions of coins can be struck, while only a much smaller number survive in truly exceptional grades, with strong strikes, clean fields, attractive original luster, and minimal contact marks. Circulation adds another layer of attrition. Coins spend years moving through pockets, cash registers, vending machines, drawers, bags, and bank inventories, accumulating scratches and discoloration. A scratched and toned example, therefore, represents a completely different population from a brilliant uncirculated specimen. The important question becomes how many examples remain in a particular condition or possess a specific authenticated error. This is why a high mintage does not automatically eliminate collector interest. For the collector examining a circulated Madison dollar, condition should be studied rather than judged at first glance. A heavily scratched coin may show contact marks across Madison's portrait, abrasions in the open fields, dark tunning around the lettering, and dull patches where the original luster has disappeared. Dirt may become trapped around the portrait details and especially around the edge lettering, while environmental exposure can create spots and uneven coloration. Natural tunning can sometimes be attractive when it develops gradually and leaves the surfaces original, but harsh cleaning is another matter entirely. Polishing, chemical dipping, abrasive rubbing, or aggressive attempts to remove dark coloration can leave permanent hairlines and unnatural surfaces that collectors generally view negatively. For a coin with an important error, however, the error itself may remain significant even when the coin is circulated. A genuine mint-made anomaly can provide a separate layer of rarity, although severe post-mint damage will normally reduce its market value compared with a similarly rare error in pristine condition. The most fascinating varieties and errors associated with the 2007 Madison dollar are concentrated around the edge rather than the traditional portrait surfaces. PCGS catalogs the normal Denver pieces with different edge lettering positions and also recognizes weak edge lettering, partial edge lettering, and dramatic doubled edge lettering errors, including inverted and overlapping examples. A major missing edge lettering error is also documented for the 2007 James Madison issue. These characteristics should not be confused with random scratches or worn lettering caused by circulation. A minting error occurs during production. The blank planchet must be prepared, struck between dies, and processed through the specialized system that applies the edge inscriptions. If the edge lettering equipment does not apply the inscriptions correctly, or if a coin receives an unusual second interaction with the lettering mechanism, distinctive results can appear. That is why the edge of a presidential dollar can sometimes reveal information that is invisible on either face. Several familiar error terms from other United States coins should not automatically be applied to this issue. There is no famous, standard large date or small date variety that defines the 2007 James Madison dollar in the way certain older coin series have recognized date varieties. Likewise, collectors should not assume that every apparent doubled portrait, date, or mint mark, represents a recognized double-die variety. The presidential dollar's mint marks were part of the edge lettering system, so unusual edge characteristics are much more relevant here than the traditional hand-punched mint mark varieties associated with older coins. Die cracks, off-center strikes, struck-through errors, planchet flaws, and other genuine mint-made abnormalities can occur in modern coinage, but each must be examined individually and distinguished from damage acquired after the coin left the mint. The important principle is simple: an unusual appearance is only the beginning of the investigation. The strongest value comes when the unusual feature can be demonstrated to have originated during manufacture and can be authenticated by a respected grading service. Auction records demonstrate just how wide the value gap can become. PCGS lists auction records of $129.95 for a 2007 D. Madison Position A MS example and $75 for a Position B example, illustrating the relatively modest premiums that can occur for high-grade regular pieces. A particularly interesting documented result belongs to the broader 2007 James Madison missing edge lettering era. PCGS records $978 for an MS-65 example sold by Heritage Auctions in January 2010. That result is important because it shows what happens when rarity becomes dramatically greater than ordinary mintage scarcity. The missing edge lettering example was not valuable because it was merely old or shiny. It was valuable because the manufacturing anomaly was scarce, recognizable, and collectible. Similar principles apply to doubled or unusual edge lettering errors, although individual prices depend heavily on authentication, grade, visibility, and buyer demand. A dramatic error can generate competition precisely because collectors know that another example may not appear for a long time. This is also where registry set competition can become important. Modern collectors often pursue the finest certified examples available for their specialized sets, and when only a small number of coins reach the highest grades, competition can become intense. The 2007 D. Madison is particularly interesting because PCGS separately tracks different normal edge lettering positions as well as specialized error categories. A coin that is ordinary at MS-64 can become much more desirable at an exceptionally high grade if the certified population is extremely small. The same principle can apply even more strongly to a rare error. Collectors competing for a specialized registry position may care about a few points of grade, superior eye appeal, strong strike quality, and originality. This is one reason two coins carrying the same year and mint mark can have completely different market outcomes. One may be an ordinary dollar worth only a small premium, while another may become the centerpiece of a specialized collection. For realistic market expectations, a circulated fine to VF 2007 D. James Madison Dollar generally has little premium over face value unless it possesses a recognized error or another special characteristic. An AU example with attractive original surfaces might bring a modest premium, while a normal mint state example can commonly remain in the low dollar to low tens range depending on grade and demand. At the upper end of ordinary certified quality, documented auction records show that exceptional examples can reach roughly the $75 to $130 range, although that does not mean every high-grade coin will sell for those amounts. Rare authenticated edge errors are a separate category, with the broader 2007 Madison missing edge lettering record reaching $978 in MS-65. A dramatically rare, well-preserved error with strong visual evidence could command substantially more than an ordinary specimen, but extraordinary prices must be supported by actual rarity and collector competition rather than an attractive story alone. There is no credible basis for assigning a routine 4- or 5-figure value to a scratched and toned normal 2007 D. Madison dollar. That distinction becomes extremely important when examining the coin featured in a collection. A scratched and toned Madison dollar should not be cleaned simply to make it appear newer. Original surfaces, even when unattractive, can provide useful evidence about the coin's history and condition. The edge should be examined under strong lighting, the date and D mint mark should be confirmed, and any unusual lettering should be photographed before the coin is handled further. Weight and diameter can also be checked against normal specifications, but measurements alone cannot prove an error. If a suspected mint anomaly appears significant, professional grading and authentication can establish whether the feature is genuine and how the market is likely to view it. The 2007 James Madison Presidential Dollar is a perfect reminder that modern coinage can hide remarkable stories beneath ordinary appearances. It is not a silver coin, and its normal composition does not give it precious metal value. Its significance comes from James Madison's place in American history, the inaugural year of the Presidential Dollar program, its Denver production, its distinctive edge lettering, and the documented errors that can transform an otherwise common dollar into a serious collectible. The normal 2007 issue is widely produced, but the population becomes dramatically more interesting when condition, strike quality, originality, edge characteristics, and authentication enter the picture. A coin that is scratched and toned may never become valuable simply because it looks old, yet a damaged-looking survivor can still deserve careful examination if something unusual is hiding on its edge. That is the true fascination of numismatics. A seemingly ordinary dollar can preserve a piece of American history, and under extraordinary circumstances, a small detail created in a fraction of a second at the mint can turn that dollar into a highly sought-after collectible.